You received a jacket, of course, with a Jewish mark in the back.
Yeah. There was a mark on the back?
On the back, a sign that we are...
A Jewish star?
Not a Jewish star, just a
triangle?
A piece of cloth of a different color.
Yellow? What color?
It didn't matter. Everything had a different color. Whatever schmatter they had, they patched it on for a sign that we are slaves.
Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't everybody a slave there? Why did they have to distinguish between one person and another?
They didn't. They just gave us
everybody
whatever
had the
they
same
had,
thing, right.
because these things were leftovers from Auschwitz, from the people who perished in Auschwitz. So their clothes they gave us. In fact, we were so frightened that we may come
disease.
to something.
Yeah.
No, not a disease, because these were not healthy people. That we will see something from our families who perished in Auschwitz. This was the fear. And
what were the sanitary conditions like?
Sanitary conditions?
No sanitary conditions.
No sanitary conditions.
They didn't have any toilet facilities?
Toilet facilities in Essen?
No, I'm talking about Gelsenkirchen.
In Gelsenkirchen? Yes, we had a latrine.
You did have?
Yeah, you know what's a latrine?
Yeah.
That's what we had.
Tell me, did anybody, might seem like really a silly question, receive any mail officially or non-officially, any packages? No.
Nothing that normal, of course not.
Right. Okay. Now we have to go through the same questionnaire, but let's talk about Essen now.
Yeah.
Okay, when did you arrive in Essen?
Like 2 months after that, after Gelsenkirchen.
After Gelsenkirchen, right.
Yes.
And you got there also by train?
Yes, then we went by train, and we were treated a little bit better. But in Gelsenkirchen, we worked from the farming, as I said.
Right.
In Essen, we worked
in
a crop factory.
Yeah.
We received some money from there after the war.
Yeah.
Like $1,100. Big deal.
Right.
Better than nothing. And before liberation, we were there about 8 months.
Did any members of your family, were they with you?
I was with my sisters all along.
All along?
All along. They didn't
know
because we had no name, so
right,
we only had a number. Otherwise, they would have separated us.
Now, at Essen, was there a selection?
No.
No selection?
We were in Essen 500 girls.
Yeah.
There was no selection.
Fine. And how large was Essen?
It was small. It was small because we were not so many. Not too many.
And was it a guard system there also? Did people...
The Nazi system, the same exact thing, just smaller.
Do you remember any commanders at Essen? Any of the people?
Any of the people really...
The Germans, the heads of the camp?
The names, nothing. Yeah. In fact, they all don't remember anything at all.
And do you remember how many Germans guarded the camp?
Oh, many. Maybe 15.
15?
Maybe 15 or 20 for the 500 of us. And believe me, with their guns, even one would have been enough. Because we didn't make an attempt to run any place.
And this was also only girls there?
Only girls.
Only girls.
In fact, in Essen, we already were allowed to go to the bunkers to hide when the siren blew. And there was, in the surrounding, close nearby, were Ukraine war prisoners. They were they were there for... they worked there in the factories, and before they let us in the hiding, so the Lagerführer said the Jewish pigs can't go and hide. That's for the Christians. So that night they got killed, all of them. It was around the Weihnachten, around Christmas.
Right.
They got killed, and the following day he says the Jewish pigs, they survived, even though they weren't hidden. He didn't let us go there to hide in the Schützengraben, they call it. But the Ukraine chicks went, and they all got killed. Their bodies were scattered all over. And I went to look for bread. And I found a piece of bread. It was bloody, but I was hungry.
So you ate it?
But I like to see them dead anyway.
Okay, were there any non-Germans that were guards at the camp at Essen?
No.
All Germans?
Germans of other countries, too.
Yeah.
Like from Yugoslavia and other countries.
And at Essen, do you remember any actions that you could accuse individual Nazis of as war criminals?
How can I accuse them not knowing their name?
But
they didn't kill nobody there. No, they didn't kill. And in fact, it was very strange. When they took us, these same Nazis took us to Bergen-Belsen. I even hate to say it, that he was like heartbroken. He knew that something bad is going to happen to us. He wasn't nice. He would pass by and kick any girl and just smack her for no reason at all. But when it came to really killing, he was like different, so different. Unbelievable. Well, others took over and they made a good job.
Uh-huh. Now, the composition of the inmates at Essen, there was about how many people?
In Essen,
Yeah.
about 500.
And
Did I say there? 500?
Right, and the ages, again, the same ages?
Yes, the
15
same,
to 25?
15 to 25.
What happened? Girls older than 25 were killed?
No, maybe some of them were married. If they had children, they were killed in Auschwitz. They didn't separate mothers from children. They killed them. Even if a big sister would walk with a little sister, they wouldn't ask no questions. They would just take her away.
And it was all girls there again, right? And
Yes, we were never together with
they
them.
were all Jews, right, at Essen?
Yes,
And they were all from the same area?
more or less. Yes, the same in the surrounding Romania, Hungary,
Okay, what did the work consist of at Essen?
also ammunition.
Ammunitions. And again, were there good capos and bad capos there?
Yes, there were others who smacked us in the face and others who left us alone.
The same types as previous?
Right.
The food, was that the same?
Yes,
Same draft.
yes,
And the daily routine?
same thing.
The same thing as at Gelsenkirchen?
Yeah,
Fine. Was there anybody that was killed there?
not
Pardon?
in my presence, no.
Any attempts at Essen to escape?
No. I told you that.
Right. Any
No.
organized underground or anything like that?
Nothing,
No cultural
nothing.
activity, no children?
Cultural
I have to go through this,
activities,
I'm very
of
sorry.
course. Are you kidding?
Okay.
We only knew what day it is because we had a few women from Satmar, you know, from the
Yeah.
Hasidim,
Yeah.
and they knew what day it is. We didn't know what day it is. So where the cultural activities come into a life so low?
Okay. How was the relations between the Jewish prisoners?
Not bad.
Not bad. Did you receive help at Essen at any time from fellow prisoners?
Well, I had friends who worked in the kitchen who would
Give you extra food occasionally?
very rarely. They didn't have themselves, but people tried to be nice. Our girls tried to be as nice as they can.
Were you suffering from anything else in Essen that you weren't in Gelsenkirchen, or did your condition deteriorate?
In Essen,
Yeah.
I had a boil over my neck and I had temperature and I still had to go to work for fear that if I tell them I'm sick, maybe they'll just take me away and bingo, I'll be no more. So one would not disclose if he doesn't feel good because of fear.
Right. Now, again, there was no medical attention at Essen.
No. No, but you see, if somebody would stay home, like he can go to work because he's very sick, they would put him to work in the kitchen. I mean, there was no such thing like leisure.
Mm-hmm. And the clothing at Essen was the same as at Gelsenkirchen?
Yes,
You
yes.
stayed with the same clothing?
Yes, then we had lice.
You didn't have a change of clothing? There was one?
No, of course not.
You slept in the same
We
clothing?
slept in the
You
same
never took it
clothing.
off?
We never took it off because we didn't have nothing to change. We
Did
had
you ever-
summer and winter, right?
you,
in the winter they gave us an extra schmatter.
Were you ever able to bathe or anything like that? Was there any water around to wash?
To what?
No
There was
ability?
only water to drink. Michael,
Okay.
we had lice.
So I won't ask you if you received any mail or anything at Essen.
Mail from Auschwitz. This is important. In Auschwitz, about 2-3 weeks, they made us write postcards home to the Christian people, to the Bekannte.
Yeah?
And we had to address it Wiesbaden, that it comes from Wiesbaden, which is a very fancy summer resort, a very well known.
Yeah.
In other words, the world should know that we are in Wiesbaden.
You
not
actually
in
did,
Auschwitz.
and they checked
Yeah,
it,
they
you
made
know?
us write postcards, that everything is all right.
It was
It's
everybody.
like for a cover-up.
Everybody wrote the same things in their postcards. Or they made you change it around.
We were afraid. It had to be on the same order because we were afraid.
Right.
We knew already soon enough what's going on there. So who wanted to risk his life?
Do you think that the people that got the postcards believed that everything was all right?
I honestly think that the people who received the postcards couldn't care less what
Right.
happens to us, because they were goyim, and they couldn't wait for us to...
For instance, who did you write to? Did you know who to write to?
Well, there was a man who was in business, and he used to buy material by my father, textile. And when the Nuremberg law came into effect, and our business was closed, he would ask me, the Jewish girl, to help out, like on Sundays, or teach his children how to go about business. So to this man, who seemed to be nice, but not nice enough to save a Jewish life, of course.
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't kill us, they were considered good, right? So to him I wrote.
Okay, we have to go through the same questions now, this time as it applies to Bergen-Belsen. So Bergen-Belsen, I believe you came to in March.
That's that. Because I need to
That was the
we got
last
rid of
thing
it,
in March,
yeah.
right. And how did you get there, also by train?
Yes,
So when you came there, you were packed in cattle cars, is that it?
yes. No, we were practicing, yes, right. And we had hardly what to eat. But we made it. Nobody died on the train.
Mm-hmm.
We looked like skeletons, of course. But when we came to Bergen-Belsen,
Was it total?
we saw a scene that we haven't seen before
Mm-hmm.
in all this time. Because we saw mounds and mounds of dead bodies, skeletons, that died, skeletons, where you wouldn't recognize a face. It was eaten up by worms, by dirt, it was a horrible, horrible scene.
How come this was left in the open?
They weren't exposed to the world, they were exposed to us,
Yeah, but
who had the same, who had an outlook for the same destiny. They were only Nazis and Jewish inmates, right?
at Bergen-Belsen, was it only women also?
No,
Men
no.
also?
It was already mixed. It was already mixed. I mean, we were dumped into a barrack, and we slept in the streets, and it was already like towards the end.
Yeah.
It looked like the very end.
Okay,
This was the worst place.
were you together with members of your family?
Yeah, I was together
You-
all the time with my sisters.
You said that 4 members of your family survived.
My brother.
Oh, your brother.
My oldest brother.
Where was he?
He was in Augsburg. I don't know in which concentration camp he was, but I know he was with my other brother, who was a year younger than him, together for many months. And once the Nazis forced my brother Shlomo to pick up some rail on a station, and he had no strength to pick her up, so they beat him till he started to spit blood. And soon after that, he died. Like, I suppose his lungs collapsed. And while he was still alive, this brother who survived was separated. He was taken to another camp because he was still able to walk. And this younger brother died a few weeks later. And here is a friend who knows what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what happened.
What was the size and location of Bergen-Belsen?
I think it was very huge and it was...
Where is that? Is it in Poland or in Germany?
No, this is in Germany.
Yeah.
It's near Weimar, I think.
And was that also guarded by...
Oh, we had electrical wires. This was like
Yeah.
Auschwitz, but worse, because in Auschwitz, they killed people, you didn't see it. You knew they walked in a crematorium, they gassed them to death. You didn't see, Auschwitz was really clean, because they did it in such a method that you didn't see no dead bodies at all, except for the people who worked there and had to, like bury the ashes or whatever. I don't know. But in Bergen-Belsen, you slept amongst dead people. People whose eyes were already corroded. The bodies already, the flesh was falling off the bones. It was a very horrible scene.
Do you remember any of the names of the commanders of Bergen-Belsen?
We had no commanders. We weren't there under special commandment like in the other camps. Here we were only put to die,
That was
perish.
it. You didn't
That
do any
was
work?
the final. No, here they took the people from the surrounding camps just to die from hunger.
They just
They
let
gave
you
us-
exist? And that was
They
what was the routine like? Did they wake you up every day at 5?
No, they just dumped us there in a barrack. And if there was no room, so if one was able to crawl out, because most of them couldn't walk no more, because there we received only soup once a day, and who knows what was
What
in
time
it.
of the day?
Around noontime.
Yeah.
And
And how did you get the soup in tin cans?
Tin cans, standing on line.
That you used to salvage yourself?
Yes, organize and hide it. If you fell asleep, you would hide it. Nobody should steal it, because we used to steal from each other. When you're hungry, you do anything.
Yeah.
And if anybody was unable to stand on line for the soup, he just died. And if he had a sister or somebody, all right. But nobody was so good to anyone, because nobody had enough energy to be good to the next one.
Was it possible to go back for more soup after you went once? Did they keep track of that?
No, they didn't. But nobody had energy. And fights would they would have fights over it. Sometimes it was thicker, sometimes the soup was thinner. But it was already such animal-like atmosphere, because most of them were, like, I used to go and close their eyes. I knew they were dead. They were just laying in the streets all over. It was something. Did you ever see those pictures?
Yeah.
That wasn't like in Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, millions of people were burned to death. But like I say, I don't know. At least they didn't suffer. They came there and they killed them. But my father was a whole year. He was in Dachau. I know because I have an uncle who survived. And in Buchenwald, they lined them up 3 days prior to liberation, and they shot them, machine gunned them. My father, he was about 47 years old.
Because they knew that they were going to be liberated, is that it?
Yes, they wanted to get rid of as many as they can. You understand? And then, like during liberation in Bergen-Belsen, suddenly some Nazis put up the white band. While others still kept shooting at us, others put up the white bands and they say, you're going to be all right. Like, they had fear for themselves already.
What did the white band mean?
Surrender.
How many Germans guarded the camp at Bergen-Belsen? A lot?
Never, nobody. They didn't need too many.
No?
We had nothing.
Was it all Germans or other nationalities also?
In Bergen-Belsen, I think it was Ukrainians and Germans. The Ukrainians had killed many people. They helped. They did a very big job there.
And at Bergen-Belsen, do you remember any incidents that you'd be able to accuse individual Nazis of being war criminals?
All of them.
Yeah. You saw them kill?
Kill? I saw them. What do you call those little things that they look down? The little boot, the watch.
The sentry.
Yes. From there they used to shoot.
Yeah.
Do I know? Of course, they used to shoot left and right.
Just whenever they wanted.
They were free to do so.
These were SS or regular?
SS. They used to shoot whenever they felt like.
So what determined how many they shot? They could have shot as many as they wanted?
Of course. There was no specific rules as to how many to shoot.
I don't understand why they didn't just kill everybody with a bullet and that's it. They just couldn't get rid of that many people at one time?
They didn't have enough soldiers. They were on the frontier. They had trouble. They were on the Russian frontier. They were losing the war. They were involved with themselves. You understand? So they couldn't complete their mission.
Right.
The final solution.
Now again, do you know how many people were in Bergen-Belsen? Thousands?
Oh, yes. In fact, when I came to Bergen-Belsen and I saw pass by 2 of my cousins that I haven't seen in a whole year, because they took them to the big camps for the final thing. And then after liberation, I looked for them, and 2 of them died. Just like this, laying on the floor. One survived from the 3 sisters. That was already during liberation, because they were all eaten up.
What were the ages in Bergen-Belsen of the people?
Same thing, Michael, because the biggest selection was in Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And in Auschwitz, people over 40, and their eyes wasn't strong enough to work for them. And many young people, young women, like if I walked with a little sister or a little kid, they would have taken me away too.
And were there non-Jews in Bergen-Belsen?
Political prisoners,
Yeah.
they were treated differently. They had assignments to take care of us. Like they were political prisoners, they received packages from home.
What kind of political prisoners?
Maybe if for any little thing he would arrest them.
Communists?
No, not even just for black marketing. For any little thing, he would have them arrested, but their treatment wasn't similar to ours. They knew that their families are home. They knew that they're not going to get killed. They knew they have something to come back to.
These political prisoners weren't killed ever?
No, they weren't.
Okay.
Unless somebody would make an attempt to escape. That's another story.
Now, at Bergen-Belsen, you didn't have any work, right?
No. That was, we just started away.
And did you have good couples there and bad couples also?
They didn't bother with us no more. They just let us die.
And the food was the one bowl of soup?
That's all.
The daily routine was you just did whatever you wanted to do?
We didn't do nothing. We didn't
Right.
have energy to
So how did you
our
spend your
day.
day? You just laid wherever you were and that was
What
it?
do you think we had in mind to read a book?
Could you
we
talk?
spent-
Could you...
Yes, we were free to talk. Like I used to
Just
give
can't-
them speeches to say they were laying and dying, and I was there still. Some of them were there longer, and they were in a worse condition than myself. I would say, you have to have hopes. You have to pray to. You have to believe there is a God. There is a God, and you are going to make it. You have to have faith. And while I was talking, they were just. There was no response. There was nothing there. Not like I'm not a preacher, but I really had hopes. And I saw that this is such a strange curse on us. Because Baden-Baden was worst of all.
Mm-hmm.
We were just sitting around. If you were able to get up once a day for the food, okay. If not, someone died sooner, and they died in the millions now.
Were you saw people getting killed there by the guards and things like that? You said
Yes,
already.
yes. In fact, I have had an experience
Any other
where I went to steal a potato peel. You know, the
Yeah.
shorts from potatoes, what do you call it?
potato peel? Yeah.
Yes, potato peel. And I said to this girl, I said, look, if they start shooting, we better lay down on the ground. This is the only thing we could do, because we were dying. Towards then we didn't get even the soup. For 3 days, millions were dying out.
Mhm.
Nothing, because they were fighting in the streets, the Nazis and the British. So she says, okay, all right. And she was shot in the leg, and she bled to that. I couldn't help her. I had nothing to help her with. And I came back. I crawled on my feet and hands. I came back with a little food, you know. So her sister, where is she? I says, I don't know. She died because her sisters came to Sweden. She did. And it didn't mean anything to see another person there, because I wouldn't have risked my life. I didn't have it what.
At Bergen-Belsen, were there any attempts to escape that you know of?
Nobody. Nothing. It was so huge.
There was no organized underground?
There
or...
was nothing. Michael, there was no energy to even think. There was no head to think with.
No children in the camp?
No. I never saw children. Only in Auschwitz. And there, they finished them off.
Okay. Now, was there any, the relations between the Jews was basically the same as in the other camps? No problem?
No, it was worse.
Was
because
worse.
here they were half dead and they didn't bother with each other.
And was...
In fact, if I wanted to have nice and peace, if I had to wanted to really relax,
Yeah.
I would lay down amongst dead people. Nobody would bother me. Like, I wanted to have peace. Like, it wasn't normal. I would lay down and I would sleep amongst dead people.
There wasn't too much talking or anything going on? Just...
We were talking. In fact, we were sometimes even laughing. But it was abnormal. It had to be abnormal. How can one want to live when everybody else is dead and dying and being treated the same way? You understand? Even that itself is not normal. One had to be very strong to see all this and still hope to survive.
Okay, now what was the relationship between the Jews and the non-Jews, the political prisoners there?
The political prisoners,
Any non-Jews?
they would beat the daylights out of us, yeah. the Polacks and the Ukrainians, yes. That was an
Why didn't you let them beat you up?
Because if I would even say something, they would kill me, right?
Who would kill you, the Nazis?
They had a right to kill me. They were free to do so.
The Polacks or the
Sure, they were free to do so. And if they didn't want to get involved, they would tell the Nazi, I said something, or I disobeyed an order. Or if she didn't like my face, she would say something. They had a perfect, I mean, we were in their hands. I mean, there is the answer why 6 million died. They were free to do whatever they wanted. And nobody even dreamt about picking up and doing anything. Because I knew, if I don't do nothing, I may survive. If I do something, maybe 50 of us will be killed. So you couldn't be a big shot.
Is that held you back from doing something? Is the fact that you thought if you did something there'd be a reprisal against the others?
Right. They would
Really?
Of course.
So that held you back? Otherwise you think you would
Did I have a weapon?
I'm saying, assuming you didn't have a weapon, would you have done something anyway if you thought that you
No,
would be...
I wouldn't do nothing because I wanted to live.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew doing something or even saying something would mean death, and I didn't want to die. So one doesn't have to be right, one has to be smart and live according to what's happening.
Was the clothing the same at Bergen-Belsen as elsewhere?
Yes.
You stayed with the same clothing?
Only filthier and worse.
It was the same clothing that you were issued in
Right, right.
And
just more lice and more dirt.
And the sanitary conditions were worse?
Diarrhea, everybody had diarrhea. Excuse me, there were latrines, but nobody made it. They couldn't walk no more. It was very bad.
And no one received any mail or anything like that?
No, there was nobody to receive from. All their families were deported.
Was there any medical attention of any kind from Germans or Jews?
Yeah.
Nothing. Were you sick in Bergen-Belsen also?
In Bergen-Belsen?
Yeah, that's from typhus you had?
Yes, there we got very sick, and luckily this is when we got liberated and taken to the hospital. There were thousands of them. They couldn't even manage to bury them. They were taken to the cellars, dragged on by the foot. That was already after liberation, because they were unable to accomplish all this, because there were so many who died out. And even others went crazy. There was a woman from Holland. She cut her wrist, she bit her wrist and drank her own blood. She died the same night next to my bed, because she went off her mind.
Okay, with the remaining time, why don't you tell me a little bit about the ghetto at Munkach?
Well, that was
or anything else that you think might be...
Okay. A day after Pesach, the Hungarian gendarmerie, that's the Hungarian police, came into the house, and they said, "You pack up, and we are going to the synagogue." That was in our hometown. So my mother worried about the Pesach, the Kedushas. I said, "This is no time to worry."
Were you religious at all at this time?
Yes, I was very religious. I never wore sleeveless dresses. I was a very religious
Even though you were in Shema HaTzair?
I was very religious. One had nothing to do with the other.
Yeah.
To me, this was for Israel. Because I was a girl, I used to read a lot. I knew what's going on. In fact, my father would ask me, what's happening, what's going on. We had no radio there, but I would know, I would read a paper, I would know what's going on. And I used to say, talk about Dr. Herzl. I was very young, and I was aware of these things. And now with all these things happening, and Jews coming from Poland and from all over to us, and telling how they cut them, how they killed them, I was, I had a feeling, that was later. And how old was I then? I was 14 years old.
What year was that in?
1938. I was 14 years old.
See, I don't understand. My mother, for instance, wasn't taken to any of these camps till, I think, early 1944 or late 1943.
Me too. In 44 it happened. Yeah. But I am telling you what was happening in Europe while I was still home, like they say in Good Fathers, with my family and business, and everything was okay, except we knew what's going on in the surrounding countries with the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And the Hungarian Jews thought that they will not be touched. You understand? Because of the political things that were going on in Russia, they were already close to Stalingrad.
Right.
And it looked good. But it wasn't fast enough for us.
Eichmann insisted that, in fact, Himmler gave orders to Heydrich, or the other way around, to stop the deportations, and Eichmann insisted that he wanted it to go on. They were going to put a stop to it.
Yes, because he wanted to kill as many as he can before this happened, but it happened maybe a year later. Stalingrad fell. Michael, I had it very nice since I was 14 years old, because I knew what was going on. I used to listen to Hitler's speeches. I knew what's going on exactly, because I had a Polish uncle who was deported in 1941, and they shot them near the Dnieper. There is a river in Ukraine. They lined them out.
How'd you find out about that?
Because we had Hungarian Jewish soldiers. They weren't allowed to have guns. They were doing just work for the army.
Yeah.
And they wrote home what happened to them. They killed them there, shot them.
And how was life like in the ghetto in Munkac?
Horrible. Very bad. We had little barracks, self-made.
How much time were you all together in the ghetto there?
Oh, not very long, but just about long. I think 3 or 4 weeks. I can't recall, really. But it was bad, because not only were the conditions very, very bad, you come from home, you don't have where to wash, you don't have there was nothing there. We used to go wash clothes in that filthy lake there. Muddy and filthy.
Did they supply you with food, or you had to fend for yourself?
The Jewish community of Munkac was still there, and the Jewish Gemeinde used to supply us with food. Not enough, because we were thousands of there was a factory, a brick factory in Ghetto Munkac, and they send us in food how much they can. It just, but the things started to deteriorate, because we knew that things are very, very bad, and I thought that they had gotten worse.
And then Mrs. Appleman, please tell us briefly a little bit about yourself and your history before the war and during and after. Mrs. Appleman, could you please tell us briefly about your background?
I was born in Irshava, Czechoslovakia on August 13, 1924. We were 8 children in the family, 4 boys and 4 girls, and only the 4th of us, the oldest, survived the war. My father had a general business, and my mother assisted at the time the war broke out, I was a student in a high school until Jews were dismissed. I belonged to Shomer HaTzayir, which accepted my parents because they were very orthodox, and they thought I would turn out to be a shiksa.
Yeah.
During the Nazi occupation of Budapest, the Jews were rounded up, and we were sent to the ghetto of Munkac.
What does the Nazi occupation of Budapest have to do with you living in Czechoslovakia?
Because there was a law.
Yeah.
Property was confiscated,
Yeah.
and we had no rights like other people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, was
And
there?
they did what they did in other occupied countries.
Right.
Right away, they got rid of the Jews.
Okay.
They took them away to a destiny unknown. And unfortunately, later we knew we were in Auschwitz, in
Right.
an extermination camp,
Uh-huh.
where they saved the young people for slave labor because they didn't have enough workers. Their soldiers were on the frontier, right? And after that, so the young people like us, teenagers, we survived only because they needed us.
Okay, fine. We'll get to that later. Okay. After you were put in the ghetto in Munkac, Czechoslovakia, then what happened?
After that, we were there approximately 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks, and there we
You
were
went
taken
to Auschwitz?
to Auschwitz
Right.
for about additional few weeks,
Yeah.
where we were separated from our parents.
Yeah.
And then, after that, there was a selection, and we were taken to a slave labor camp. We were working in an ammunition factory.
Was that at
in
Gelsenkirchen?
Gelsenkirchen.
Right.
And Gelsenkirchen. And from there was another selection,
Yeah.
where they took 500 of us to Essen, in a crop fabric that was another ammunition factory.
Yeah.
And 1,500 girls remained in Gelsenkirchen, and there was a bombardment, and they were killed out. The majority of them perished.
What was the bombardment from the
From
Allies?
the Allies, it could have been the Russians, because that was the ammunition plants.
Yeah.
So these girls were not allowed to go to hide in the bunkers.
Mhm.
So the majority of, I know none of them who survived.
Mm.
So,
And these were mainly girls from Czechoslovakia?
Czechoslovakia and surroundings like Romania and Hungary.
Okay. And then afterwards you were taken to, in March, to Bergen-Belsen?
Yes, then in Essen we remained several months,
Yeah.
and because the front was already in Aachen and they didn't want us to be liberated, of course, so they took us to another camp where we would perish.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't a working camp where we received a minimum amount of food.
Mm-hmm.
So we came to Bergen-Belsen and we traveled for about 3 days without food. We had just enough.
How'd you travel, by foot?
By train.
By train?
By train. But not straight to Bergen-Belsen. First they took us to Buchenwald.
Yeah.
And a report came there was not enough room for us because they gathered all the little camps, all the Jews from the little camps, to those extermination camps for the final solution.
Yeah.
You understand? So since there wasn't, in fact, it took more days. First to Buchenwald, and from there the train stopped, and there was no room, so they took us to Bergen-Belsen. There, within 3 weeks, out of 500 girls, maybe only 150 survived, because there we had just nothing to eat. We had nothing to eat, and even the little food they gave us was poisoned, which was discovered later. The chemicals to cause consumption, diarrhea, and all kinds of sicknesses. And no other place that we see people, skeletons on the streets that died from hunger, like in Bergen-Belsen. This was like the end of it all. We were
Why do you think they wanted to kill you off by poisoning the food instead of just killing you out straight?
Because they didn't have enough
Enough
soldiers
to kill you?
to kill us. They had machine guns. Many people in Bergen-Belsen who were still walking, but the majority of us were so weak from malnutrition we didn't walk no more.
Yeah.
So it was really the people who were laying, because they were weak, had more chance to survive. They were killing, shooting with machine guns left and right. Why they wanted to kill us? Because there should be no sign that something happened there. They couldn't accomplish everything because there was no time. Then the British came in and they fought in the streets there in Bergen-Belsen. And more people perished because of that.
Okay, we'll get into that in detail later. Let's just, let's say, finish up on a short biography. Okay, so after Bergen-Belsen, you were liberated by the British in 1945 in April?
About then.
Okay, we'll stop here a second.
After the liberation, we were all taken to a hospital. We were around 3 months in the hospital. We had typhoid disease.
Yeah, where was the hospital? In Bergen-Belsen?
In Bergen-Belsen.
Yeah.
In Bergen-Belsen, we were all in the hospital. And about 10,000 of us through the Swedish Red Cross was taken to Lübeck.
Tell me, did you ever hear of Dr. Bimco while you were in Bergen-Belsen?
No.
They're very interested in knowing about a Dr. Bimco.
No, I don't know because I was only 3 weeks there, luckily.
Yeah.
And then after that, we signed up to go to Sweden because my sister...
What were you suffering from?
I had typhoid disease.
Typhus?
Typhus.
Is that cooked typhus or regular typhus?
No, this is typhus, nicht cooked typhus. And my sister had TB, and this is why we have to go to Sweden, because we know there is nothing back home. We had nothing to go back for. Back to, in other words. And in Sweden, we were there 2.5 years. Is it important to talk about Sweden?
No, just you were briefly in Sweden
we
and
were
then
in Sweden 2.5 years till we came to the United States.
Okay, fine. We're ready to start a questionnaire now on your background in Shoma Hatzair. Is that the only organization to which you belonged prior to the war?
Yes.
That was the only organization?
Yes, and I have cousins in Israel who left those years, 2 of them.
How old were you when you joined Shoma Hatzair?
I was maybe 7, 8 years old.
7, 8 years old?
Yes, I was a little girl.
Was that a common thing where you came from to join that, or was that considered like a apikuris outside?
Apikursish.
Right.
It was apikursish, yes, because our parents and grandparents, I mean, I have cousins who were leaders that time, and chalutzim, you know, and because they left at that time, and those years, they went to Eretz Yisrael. So my grandmother was very heartbroken that they'll become goyim and they went away so far away. And if I joined, I had to do it secretly. They shouldn't know because a nice Jewish girl from a Balbatische family, this was the wrong thing to do. They didn't live to this.
But at 7 years old, you were able to do it secretly?
Yes, I said I'm going to my cousins and we went off Sikha, we sang, they were discussing Eretz Yisrael, and like I had a feeling for it, you understand? Because they were such big Zionists, my cousins, and they were of course in their late teens. They understood what they were talking about and it appealed to me.
Right.
But to my parents only, unfortunately, during deportation, when I noticed the train taking Jews from others from the surrounding area and not knowing where they take them in cattle trains, then I came in one day and I told my mother, so it's not good to be a Zionist and we didn't need Israel. We need money and we need to be amongst these animals who are at all time, whenever they get a chance to kill us. So I said, where is your God? And to this day I regret it because never she was so religious. Where did I come up to say a thing like that? I said, so who's going to help you now? So we don't have a country and we don't have where to go. We'll go where they'll take us. And believe me, they're not going to take us to Wiesbaden where it's a summer resort. Because we know what's going on in Poland. And we know my father was Havre Kadisha Gabe at home. And we had already Jews from Austria coming to us. They didn't have what to eat. Rich people, they had to leave everything and just run for their lives. And I don't know what happened later. I was in 1942 in Budapest, and there in the Jewish streets I met, Polish refugees that ran away from Poland on Goyish papers. And they lived in Budapest. Till the final thing came and the Nazis occupied Budapest and we were all taken.
Right. Tell me, did you belong to any underground organization during the war?
There was no such chance for us. We were with we was in concentration camp. There was just one thing for us, hope to survive.
Uh-huh.
And he who didn't have that either, or a little belief, they perished with the same treatment like us. Like they say, the survivor of the fittest.
Yeah. During the different camps that you were in and Auschwitz, you weren't aware of the existence of any underground organization?
No, I wasn't aware of anything. Because, we only had one hope, that somebody, somehow, and I was religious, so I hope that God will help us, regardless of what I saw happening before my eyes every day. I figured that he who is dead, but the one who lives has to have hope to survive.
Uh-huh. And what happened briefly to your family, and when did you get separated from them?
Well, on the day we arrived to Auschwitz, right away when we got off the train.
Yeah.
So men and women were separated. Then there was another separation. Like elder people, like anybody in their upper 30s or 40s was an elderly person, not capable of carrying out their mission. I meant work in the factories. So my mother was in her mid-40s. She was considered old. Of course, I didn't know where they're taking her, but my heart told me I'd never see her again. So I was with my three sisters, because we were 4 girls. So they took my mother with my younger sister. She was 12 years old. They took them away, and I never saw them again. Us, they took to a bed, and they gave us the slave clothes, the gray dresses. They took away everything. They shaved our hair. They gave us a number. And then they took us to a barrack, you know?
Yeah.
Like 2,000 of us were crammed in a very small area where we killed each other because of the lack of space. They called it a koya. So maybe 15 or 20 of us, we slept sitting. And we used to, from tourists, kill each other. And for breakfast, we used to have black coffee, 4 o'clock in the morning. And 5, we had to go out. On the roller call, we had to be counted. Every morning and every night. This was Auschwitz. And from there, we used to see trains coming in from all parts of Europe, from Belgium, from all the occupied territories. And now I was aware already of what's happening because I spoke to Polish girls who were there, unfortunately, like 2-3 years before, people who built Auschwitz.
Yeah.
You understand? So, it was a very, very terrible thing. Once I knew already what's happening, and I saw the crematorium because I was close enough to it. The air was smelly, and I knew already, but still, when a person is hungry and has fear of dying, he is so involved with himself. Regardless of what happened, which was very bad, you still wanted to live. So after 3 weeks, there was a selection, and from the 2,000 girls in that barrack, they had to select. Well, they didn't tell us, and we didn't know what's going on. But when I noticed that they're selecting the huskier girls, the healthy-looking girls, that I suspected that they're taking them out. And once out from Auschwitz, we had more hopes for survival. So, of course, I was selected amongst the skinny ones. I was very slim, but I took a chance. I figured if they don't shoot me, they'll burn me to death. At least if I gamble, I may make it. So I did. And I ran away, and I was very panicky. I was very much afraid they'll catch me. But they didn't take my number, so they couldn't know. So I figured, now I made it. So they took us again to take baths. And now they made another reselection, and now we had to walk down naked. So I couldn't put clothes or schmattes under my dress to look heavier. Now I really thought the Malchamuvis is over my head. Well, it was meant for me to survive, so I made it again. And we were taken away to a work camp, as I mentioned before.
Right. Okay, I want to just get back for a second to your illness. Obviously you recovered, but was there any medical attention of any kind, official or secretive, given to you by either Germans or Jewish personnel in any of the camps?
Nothing at all.
Nothing whatsoever?
Nothing at all, nothing.
For anybody or just for yourself?
No, because in fact if somebody was sick, it would have been a secret, because if some of the women were young and they were with us, they didn't know they were at the beginning of pregnancy, and suddenly they took them away in the middle of the night, and we didn't know what happened to them. So to be sick there meant death.
Mm-hmm. And after the war, you were treated by the British or by?
Yes, by the British. We were liberated by the British.
And what sort of treatment did they give you?
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
They were very nice to us. Very nice to us.
What language did you speak to them in?
Well, we had British and we had from the occupied, we had from Belgium, and many of them spoke also German. They spoke German.
Yeah.
And there were many Jewish boys amongst them, helping out. So we didn't have much to say. We were very sick and we didn't know what's coming up.
Okay. Now, I have to ask you the same questions about each of the various camps that you were in. That's Gelsenkirchen, Essen, and Bergen-Belsen. And I'm particularly... Auschwitz is considered a camp?
Yes, that's a death camp.
Right.
That was the biggest of all.
Okay, so let's start with the first one you were in Gelsenkirchen, right?
First is Ghetto Bunkers.
The ghetto they know about, they don't want to...
Auschwitz.
Right.
And then Gelsenkirchen.
First you were in Auschwitz.
Right.
Well, about Auschwitz they have information. What they want to know is about Gelsenkirchen, Essen, and Bergen-Belsen.
That was a work camp.
Okay, now, the date of arrival. When did you arrive at Gelsenkirchen about?
Well, we came to Auschwitz in April, right after Pesach.
Yeah.
And we were in Auschwitz around 3-4 weeks. I can't remember dates. So
okay,
exactly.
Fine. And by what method of transportation did you get there?
Cattle train.
Yeah. Did you arrive there alone or with members of your family?
With my 2 sisters.
Yeah. And what happened to them?
They're here.
Uh-huh. Was there a selection upon arrival?
In Gelsenkirchen?
Yeah.
No. We came there to work.
There was no selection whatsoever?
No selection.
Okay. What was the location and the size of the camp?
We lived in barracks.
Where was it located?
In Gelsenkirchen?
Yeah, and was it large?
It wasn't very large because we were only about, 2,000 girls.
Right.
We were 2,000 girls, yes, it had to be large. And after it was bombarded, the bombing, we lived in a cellar, which was very bad because the water was dripping on our heads, everything was destroyed, and like in the beginning we used to go by trolley to work, and now we have to walk. And we have no clothes, nothing. It was very bad, and many girls there had gotten sick.
Do you know what when the camp was set up, when it was established?
In Gelsenkirchen?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't specifically a camp. It was soldiers used to be there. And this was empty. It was in the end. It was on Humboldtstrasse. I even remember the street. And they emptied it. They gave it to us. They had to keep us someplace according to their normal conditions, so we can go and work every day. Like we worked 12 hours a day, and one shift worked 12 hours a night, 7 days.
And how was the camp guarded? To
by the Nazis.
Did they have a lot of, let's say, walls around it or barbed wire?
No, they didn't have to have it because nobody would run away. There was no place to go. We knew we are in a German city, and they hate us, and we had no place to go.
Yeah.
In fact, a few girls ran away before they thought we are getting liberated a few months later, and they were shot. No, but they didn't survive.
Who shot them, the Nazis? Or?
Maybe just the Germans.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Gelsenkirchen is located in Germany itself?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Now, do you know the names of the commanders or any of the officers in the camp?
I don't remember because we called them by the first names, and we don't know no second names.
Do you remember the first names?
We have Peter and I don't remember.
Okay.
And because some of them were from Yugoslavia, we had Nazis from other countries, not only Germany.
Right. Was it Germans that guarded the camp?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know if there were any non-Germans, like Ukrainians or Lets or any of that?
They were only in Auschwitz.
In Auschwitz, okay. Now, were the Germans SS or did they belong to other German units?
It was Wehrmacht too.
Wehrmacht.
SS and Wehrmacht, and the Wehrmacht wasn't as mean as the SS.
Uh-huh. Do you remember any incidents that could be used to accuse individual Nazis as war criminals?
I don't know nobody by name. You understand? I know nobody by name.
Mm-hmm. But do you remember any incidents that they...
What happened?
Yeah.
Any incidents where they killed in front of my eyes?
Yeah.
Anybody? No, I don't. I know. I remember.
Did killings go on there though?
In Gelsenkirchen? No.
No?
No. If somebody did something they disliked, they would cut their hair and beat them up.
I
Oh,
thought you
there
said
was beating. There was a lot of cruelty. I was beaten up because, like, when we used to line up to go to work, and nobody wanted to be the last one because they would tell us, schnell, schnell, walk, faster, faster. We'd give it a knack. You know, they would hit us. So everybody was running in front, but somebody had to be in the back too. And we used to leave the camp like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. It was dark. So I carried a lantern, you know.
Yeah.
And if I didn't hold it the way he liked, I mean, he didn't have to have a reason why he hit me. If I was Jewish, that was enough reason for him to hit me. But I was smacked in the head with a rubber hose. Smacked in the head left and right. And I didn't even cry. Because I said to the girl next to me, I said, like I made a joke out of it. We were used to being exposed to such cruelty that, like, it hurt me. It hurt me, yes. But not emotionally, it didn't bother me. Like I dismissed it from my mind. I said, if he would not, in fact I made a joke out of it, I said, if he would only know that my father was a rabbi and he was such a nice Talmud Chacham, he would surely not do it. And since he doesn't know it, he is to be forgiven. I even made a joke out of it. You went down so low that there was nothing, no feelings.
But you said you know that some girls were shot for trying to leave the camp.
Yes, but you see, I know because they didn't make it.
Right.
Because I didn't see them, I never got in contact with. These were girls that I knew.
Fine. Now, what was the composition of the inmates in the camp? The amount, the ages, sex, how many were Jews, where they came from?
In my camp were only Jews.
Only Jews.
Only Jews.
Was
but
it
in
men and women?
No.
Just women?
No, we were not even allowed. We were working in a ammunition factory and they had war prisoners.
Yeah.
From France, from Italy, and they were nice boys. Like they had it slight easier than us, of course, and they would give us a little food occasionally. And they were afraid because they would have been punished for it. We were not allowed to have any contact with anybody. We were
so
like
it was all women.
All women.
And how old were they usually?
Well, some of them were 14 years old. 14 until I would say 25. Maybe there were a few exceptions.
And you said there were how many about?
About 2,000 in Gelsenkirchen.
Right. And do you know what towns or areas they usually came from? They were...
The same thing from the Carpathians, where I come from Romania, and from Hungary.
Fine.
The
and
same area.
What did the work consist of?
Ammunition factory. They baked steel in the ovens. We used to have to pull steel from the ovens or cut iron. It was heavy. It was very hard work.
Was there any safety conditions or was
No.
it dangerous work?
It was dangerous work, but nothing happened to anyone that I know of.
Do you know what a capo is?
Of course I do.
Okay, were there any good ones or bad ones?
You know, Michael, I hate to talk against my own people, even though this goes not to the Goyim. Yes, we had some very nasty people there, our people. And I'd rather not talk about it.
Not at all?
No, why should I?
Just a little too.
Yes. Well, they were we had girls from Romania, and they had little positions where they had more food than us.
Yeah.
And because of it, they were with the Nazis, and they punished us even more. Like they would give us even less food that was allowed.
Yeah.
And they would call us names and hit us. Yes.
And what was the food like at Gelsenkirchen?
The food we used to get, like half a kilo bread, that's for a whole day, and 1 cup of soup, like made from grass and all kinds of junk. That was for the workers.
Yeah.
This is because we worked. So of course we kept losing weight. I had diarrhea, I thought I'd lose all my teeth, and I had boils all over my body. And the girls we received in Auschwitz, we received some chemicals to stop our period.
Right.
And of course that was because of that and malnutrition, we had boils and we suffered.
Okay, I didn't give you a chance to say if there was any good capos. Were there any good ones?
Well, occasionally, like there was one German woman who liked a little
capos were Jews, weren't they?
Not always. Were there good Jewish capos? Yes, there were.
What did they do? What made them good?
What made them good? Not hitting us.
Yeah.
Made them good. Like they would say, look, be careful because they'll kill you. That made them good, that itself.
Right.
So then you can't blame them for having that position. You understand? Because if they had more food, for food you do anything.
Was the food the same every day of the week? Just about?
Yes.
So when you got the food, the bread in the morning and the soup at night, or what?
Yes. No, we had at the same time. We had to line up when we came from work. We lined
You
up.
ate only when you came back from work?
Right. And we had
morning?
black coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Black coffee before leaving. Sugarless, just like that.
That was it?
That was it. And with this, we worked 12 hours a day.
And,
So what do you think
yeah, of course.
we made it? Not many of us. Though.
What was the daily routine like?
The daily routine?
Yeah.
So we worked 12 hours.
You woke up at around what time?
Well, they used to blow a whistle.
At what time?
Maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
That early, every day?
Yes. Until we lined up, till they served our girls would serve the black coffee. There were fights in rusty cans, of course, no dishes, God forbid. Until we lined up, until they got ready for us, and we walked to work. 12 hours work. And that's it. So at night we walked back to the camp, and they served the hot soup. Our girls served hot soup from the camp. So we ate it up right away. We were very hungry.
Like on a Jewish holiday or any sort of thing, do you think they acted differently to you than during an ordinary day?
You mean more viciously?
Yeah.
Well, I remember one incident in Essen where they gave us herring and there was no water. No water at all because of bombing. Everything was destroyed. They had water. They went across the street. I mean, they supplied
And this
for
was
their
a
own
Jewish
needs.
holiday?
This was before Christmas. It was their holiday where they were more vicious. They gave us little herring, very salty stuff, and we were dying for water. So we used to drain, forcefully from the pump. And he who didn't have koyach, to drain, would spit in the next person's mouth. They shouldn't die from thirst, because thirst is worse than hunger.
What camp was that in?
That was in Gelsenkirchen.
In
yes.
Gelsenkirchen?
In Gelsenkirchen. And then we left.
The reason I ask is because I've heard that on days like Tisha B'Av or whatnot, they used to increase the amount of people to be killed on those days.
This camp that I talk about was a working camp.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking
want
about.
us to die. They didn't want us to live, but they wanted the use out of us.
No, I'm talking about, let's say, in Auschwitz or some other place. We'll get to that later. Anyway, how many people at that time in Gelsenkirchen? Nobody was killed, right? Okay. Were there any attempts to escape? You said there were.
You say nobody was killed? Yes, because not directly, but from the bombing.
Right.
Because they couldn't. They had no right to. When the sirens, when we had signals, when the enemy...
Yeah, I'm just saying the Germans themselves didn't kill.
No.
And when I say, were there actions in the camp, do you know what I mean by that? Actions?
Like,
It says here, were there actions in the camp? I don't know.
what do they mean by it?
I don't know.
So,
Okay, let's go on to the next one.
No.
Were there any...
Beating up here and there, yes.
Okay,
That's
now...
that I know of, that I've seen.
You said that there was some attempts to escape, right?
Yes. No, I didn't have any. I had no attempts to escape because I knew I would
No,
go
not yourself, but the other people did, some people.
Yes, about 6 of them.
Uh-huh.
And nobody knows of their survival.
Now, was there any sort of organized underground or planned resistance?
Amongst us?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Was there any attempts at any cultural activity?
Are you for real? Are you kidding?
Were there any children in the camp, hidden or open?
No.
Okay, what was the relations between the Jewish inmates? Was there antagonism between groups from the same town, between groups from different towns, between Polish Jews and other Jews and non-Jews?
In Auschwitz.
No, let's talk
They
about
were
Gelsenkirchen now.
No, because we were all more or less Hungarian Jews.
Yeah.
We got along pretty well. There were occasional fights from tourists. Outbursts, but not really what you would call bad under the circumstances. No.
Fine. Did you receive any help from fellow inmates while you were there?
No.
No.
They couldn't help me, had nothing to help with.
Right. Were you ill at all in Gelsenkirchen? You said you had pyorrhea and...
yeah, my gums deteriorated and I had boils.
Did you
recover?
recover?
And I had lost a lot of weight. What?
Did you recover at all while you were there?
No, it was treated in Sweden later on.
And you didn't have medical attention either, and...
Nothing.
What was the clothing like there?
The clothing?
Yeah. Did you get different clothing when you came, or you wore the same clothing that you came?
No, we had the same thing.
That
we
you
had the
wore
same
to
gray dress that we had in Auschwitz.
Oh, they gave you the dress?
Yes,